So my first album, Haven of Rest, was produced in 2016, and it was a collection of about 25 hymns of the faith. They came together through very traditional and classical medleys that I arranged and then improvised in the studio. So I wanted a planned but improvised feel on all the hymns, and I originally planned the project as a Christmas gift for my grandparents, and then it grew into a full-scale production from there. And when I got feedback from a lot of listeners that Haven of Rest was a really encouraging part of their lives during trials or just dark seasons, I started working a second album in 2017 and entitled it Where Glory Dwells, from the hymn that talks about heaven and the glories of Emmanuel's land, as it's phrased in the hymn. And it was really fun to collaborate with a lot of different artists on that project and see it come together on an even larger scale. And so it's been a year since that CD was released, and a busy year of planning and producing and just brainstorming ideas for this album that I'm currently working on. So the process for creating a lot of the content for Redemption Dawns began about 5 years ago at Christmas time. And it had been a hard year of working through some really hard things for me, and I was not at all excited to celebrate Christmas. And I was also not excited that people were telling me to produce a Christmas album, because everybody makes Christmas music. So I was at church on Christmas Day playing piano for the service, and the closing carol was Silent Night. And I was really bummed. I'm like, of course they would choose to end on a slow hymn because it's just a slow Christmas, and bah humbug, here we go. I get to play Silent Night on Christmas Day. It's not night, whatever. And so I'm sitting there and we're working into the last stanza, and the congregation is really raising the roof, and the string group next to me is really soaring. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. And so I'm cascading down the piano in these really epic arpeggios, and then my world kind of freezes. And my eyes went in on this one phrase on the page, and it said, "Radiance beams from God's holy face with the dawn of redeeming grace." And my Christmas just changed in that moment. And I was like, oh, that works for me. That's deep. That I can celebrate that at Christmas. It doesn't matter where my year has been. It doesn't matter where my music has been. I can celebrate that. And so that was 5 years ago. And every time Christmas rolled around, I just started going deeper and deeper into the carols and trying to mine out those nuggets of gospel truth that were deep in these Christmas carols in the stanzas we don't normally sing. And it started coming out on the piano, and it started coming out in hymns. I thought if ever anyone asked me, what is Christmas Day? I'd be like, well, that's the day redemption dawned upon the earth. And so if I ever had a chance to make an album of Christmas music and I put all those carols that had every theme of redemption possible on it, I would call that album Redemption Dawns. So my hope is that through the music on this album, every listener will be able to rediscover Christmas afresh. Every carol and in every track, I hope they're able to find those themes of God's grace and God's redemption and recenter it in the gospel and realize that Christmas is a time to celebrate, and it's a time to worship, and it's a time to give thanks for God's redemption of us through the gospel, and then not to keep that gospel for themselves, but to take it to the nations.